Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is Jessica Frank with ADAJ Author. Today we are doing our session. The beginning part is ADAJ Author, and the second part will be the Hot Docs homework. So I'm going to just go through a couple of slides. You should have seen my my training videos. Hold on, I'm getting an echo. Can everyone, the presenters, all mute themselves, please? Okay, thanks. So at any time, if y'all have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or raise your hand, and one of my fellow presenters will keep an eye, hopefully, on the attendee list so that we can stop and go along. So the portion today, just a quick review of the first two videos that were assigned to you for homework today, was just the basics of how ADAJ Author and Hot Docs work together, or how interviews and templates sort of work together. So you have the template, which has the blank spaces. Those are you then put variables in when you create your template. Those variables are then used in the interview. In this case, it is an ADAJ Author. The end user then sees the questions themselves that you've built, and when they fill in the blank fields, those answers stored within the variables, the values and the variables are stored together in an answer file. The ADAJ Author answer file fits the format of Hot Docs, so it's an ANX file. It's an XML file specific to the Hot Docs format. Then when the end user hits Get My Document or Submit or whatever the last button is in your ADAJ Guided Interview, that answer file is passed to Law Help Interactive, to the server that is hosting both the interview and the template. It's combined, and then what the end user gets back is basically a search and replace. So the server does the work of replacing the variables with the values that the end user has given. Oh, you can't see my screen. Is it showing now? It's telling me that that they can see my screen. Okay, so one of the end users, or one of the authors can see. Okay, so Mark, it might be your connection. Looks like everybody else can see the screen. Okay, so that's the basics of how document assembly works when you have an ADAJ Author front end and either a Hot Docs template backend or now an ADAJ template. We have our own document assembly tool called the ADAJ Author Document Assembly Tool, or the DAT. So you can either use Hot Docs as a backend with an ADAJ as a ADAJ interview as a front end, or a Hot Docs interview as a backend. Or you can use an ADAJ DAT template as a backend and an ADAJ interview as a front end. The last class in this series, I'll cover the basics of authoring with the ADAJ DAT. Both ADAJ front-end interviews and ADAJ back-end templates, the DAT, will be available to be hosted on Law Help Interactive. So our tech teams are still working out a couple of last-minute things, so the DAT is not yet, will be free. So I also wanted to cover in today's session just a little bit of the reviews about an ADAJ interview and why you might choose the ADAJ interview over the Hot Docs interview. ADAJ was specifically designed for pro se litigants. There were studies done that showed the Hot Docs interface for the interview can be a little bit difficult and too form-like for end users. So ADAJ was specifically funded by Legal Services Corporation to bridge that gap for pro se litigants. We have our guide avatar, and what I'm showing you now are the options for the guide avatar. That's the lawyer. The lawyer can be either male or female, 5 different skin tones, and an array of hair colors. You as the author select what the guide avatar will look like, and your end user shortly will have more options for what their avatar looks like. So in the past, ADAJ Author asked, what's your gender, to select a male or female end user avatar. They looked one way, the existing male or the existing female. Hair color was set, Skin tone was set by you as the author. Whatever the guide avatar's skin tone was, the end user's avatar skin tone would be. But we've made improvements. We reached out to a designer to increase the availability of the avatars for our end users. And we're working on taking away the what's your gender question. That can be an issue sometimes with legal aids that don't want to get into asking people what's your gender when all they're really asking is which avatar do you want. It doesn't really matter for the form sometimes. So it can be a question that people don't want to answer or are offended by answering. So instead, we've decided to change that question into customize your avatar. So we worked with our designer to really find that balance between having somebody be able to self-represent in whatever way they needed for the avatar and have as many options as possible without having somebody spend 30 minutes picking an avatar that ultimately doesn't matter. It's not your Bitmoji for social media. It's not your sim life avatar. This is just to help you complete this form and get through this core process. So we really had to work to balance options with too many options. So the same as you, the author, can pick the skin tone and the hair color of the guide avatar, your end users will be able to pick their skin tone and their hair color and pick from a range of avatars with young female in a wheelchair, older female in a wheelchair, and then same for the male options. So this should be rolling out probably by the end of the year and will give your end users more options for how they self-represent on the pathway. I think I have a question. I'm just going to double check. Okay. No worries about having to leave early. This session is being recorded and will be posted in the DA support section on Pro Bono Net. So you can always come back and watch the videos later. So another feature of ADAJ Author is our just-in-time learning features. So the idea is that the end user gets information just at the moment in which they need it. So this is an example of a Learn More. A Learn More allows you as the author to give additional information to the end user at the point in which they need it. So this is an example of a Learn More graphic. You could have a question that says, or an informational page that says something like, make sure when you get to the end of the document to sign it and date it on the last page. And while that may seem very intuitive to you, in that you said the last page, make sure you sign it and date it, most people would look for the signature line. You may want to throw in a graphic here with one of those please sign and date tags. This is kind of a low fidelity graphic, but you could put in a higher resolution image, a scan of your document with one of those flags to sign here. And then this shows your end user exactly where to sign. And as you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So anytime you can use a graphic, we highly suggest using something like that to explain your point. You know, if you're asking for the case number and the jurisdiction or the court, show them a picture of the caption of their document they would have gotten in the mail for an eviction, or if they were sued or whatever. You can show them a picture of a sample one and show them where to look for that information rather than trying to write a paragraph explaining where to look. This is just a screenshot of a video, but you can also add in videos to your Learn Mores to explain a little bit more information. Like if you have to explain a legal concept and you have a short video that explains it, one of those cartoon ones, or one where the people have like the whiteboard and they're drawing the picture on it as the voiceover is going. I've seen a video showing exactly where in the courthouse to deliver the paperwork that they're creating with this interview, like someone walking in being filmed, like drop it off on the 6th floor, put it in a bin. Just a short little 30-second video can be added to. So, and the videos can be MP4s. In ADAJ 4, you used to be able to add Flash videos, but Flash is no longer supported, so you do have to make sure that those are MP4 videos. Another feature of ADAJ is a pop-up. Pop-ups are generally used for definitions. It's a little hard to see, but this word right here, this, in the second word of this screenshot, is a blue pop-up. And if the end user clicked it, this pop-up would show up, this little help. It's a little lifesaver, like you would throw out if someone was drowning. And this is really great every time that you have a term of art or one of those $100 lawyer words, you should define it. Even as simple as jurisdiction or caption or plaintiff, respondent, petitioner, defendant even, all those terms might be unfamiliar to someone who maybe has a 5th grade reading level, has English as a second language, or isn't familiar with the American jurisdiction or judicial system. All of these things are really easy for you as authors to do in terms of adding pop-ups. Just Google the definition and add that in, and then you can use it every time you use that word. But it makes a big difference for your end users not having to go out and figure out what that word means. So ADAJ supports 15 languages currently. Each one of these languages allows you as the author to author in that language. It doesn't mean that we automatically translate your content for you from English to these languages. What is translated is a list of 34 words or phrases that are common to all interviews. So continue, back, next, yes, no, you must answer this is required. Those kind of things that are common across all interviews, we've translated into all of these languages. But by selecting one of these, it allows you to use the characters like Arabic or simplified Chinese. If you have those characters on your keyboard, it allows you to type them in. And if there's a language on here that you want that we don't currently support, it is very easy for us either to send you the list of 34 phrases for someone in your office to translate and send back to us as a text file, or we can outsource it to a reliable translation service that we've used in the past, and they can get it back to us within a couple of days. So if there's something that you see from your target population that you'd really like in here, just let me know, and we can get that going. And also we have a YouTube channel, which you probably watched the videos from before this class. But if you didn't get a chance to watch them, they're on our YouTube channel. We also have about 40 training videos that are available in different parts of ADAJ. So I try to record every new user webinar that I do the first Thursday of the month, which is topic specific. Each month is another topic, but I try and record those and post them. If we have guest speakers up there, I post those as well. So you should check out, it's just youtube.com/ADAJ Author. I see that I have a hand raised. So Janine, go ahead, I'll unmute you.
Hi. My question was, if you do use a second language, do the questions show in both English and the second language at the same time?
They don't. So whatever language you choose is what will be the base, the primary language. If you want to show 2 languages at the same time, they've done in New York, for example, has the question in English, and then they have a pop-up that says Espanol or Francés. And if the end user wants it in that language, it'll pop up. So then you have the question and the pop-up in the second language and the question in English, so they can see it side by side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, let me check our question panel quickly. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any new questions. The other resource we have for you is our website. So we have our ADAJ authoring guide, which is our software manual. And that software manual is essentially about 300 pages equivalent with screenshots about how to do everything in ADAJ. The screenshots, our design team keeps changing little things on me, and I'm constantly trying to keep up with the screenshots, but the content is all correct, even if the screenshot's a little off. Sorry, I have to keep muting, I have a cough. The other thing you might want to check out is the new author resources. That is a curated list that I pulled together of all the things that I think might be helpful for new authors to check out. And then the main one is the sample exercises to learn ADAJ Author. So I'm still seeing if I can customize the training that I have at the end of this training series to do more of what I'm working on. But I do have a sample exercise that will teach you how to author in Hot Docs, a template, and then create a guided interview that corresponds to it. I've had several people go through it. It takes about an hour to do. So even if after this series you're looking for something to practice before you start your real projects, the sample exercises might be a great option for you. I also have a sample exercise on how to use our ADAJ DAT and have an ADAJ template and an ADAJ interview as a front end. Our training video series is just links out to the YouTube channel. If you're working in ADAJ 4 to convert it to an ADAJ 6, which if you have any ADAJ 4s, you should be converting those soon. Flash is quickly being killed off over the internet. So there's a list of known differences, some frequently asked questions, and then additional information if you need that. So our website is adajauthor.org. That's where you do all of your authoring under the author tab, but under the learn tab, we have all these additional resources for you. And finally, I recommend that you follow ADAJ Author on Twitter. I don't do a ton of posting, but generally when I post, it's notifications about code pushes or trainings or interesting information about access to justice and legal technology. So if you are on Twitter, I recommend following at ADAJ Author, our handle. So for the next, to finish up kind of my section, and I'll come back for questions. I see that there's some. The last 2 classes in this training series are ADAJ Author classes. So on October 9th, we'll focus on macros, functions, repeat loops, and advanced logic. I'll have a video for you to watch and some homework. I don't have it just yet, but I'll make sure to share it before those classes by the end of the month. And then the last one will cover the ADAJ Author document assembly tool, the DAT. So you're learning how to create templates in HotDocs right now, but the DAT is another option that is possible if you're interested in doing simple templates. So that'll be the last class. All right. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. Pretty good about returning emails during normal business hours. And I'm always happy to help or answer follow-up questions that you have with those. So let me see about questions. Okay. Oh, so David was mentioning that when a question is required and he has it set to Spanish, it reads the word required. Yes, we missed the word required in our translations, so that's in our issue queue to fix. It will say required in Spanish shortly. Sorry about that. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or put them in the question panel or the chat box. We'll keep an eye on those. Okay, well then I'm not seeing any, so I will turn this back over to Mark. Mark, do you want me to make you the presenter?
Sure, Jessica, that'd be great.
Okay.
But if anyone has other questions for Jessica, please feel free to raise them in the question pane or raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to dig into part 2. And as you've seen, ADAJ Author is a very amazing world. I highly encourage you to spend time working in it, both as a companion to HotDocs and increasingly as an alternative to HotDocs for certain kinds of forms and documents. And definitely a much more colorful, interesting experience for users that's fully supported on the LawHelp Interactive environment. So stay tuned. We will come back, of course, to much more depth on ADAJ in classes 6 and 7, as Jessica mentioned. Right now, we're still going through the last of lesson 3, which you should have done this past week. We're on group call number 4. That's today. This is the call where we're reviewing the 3rd module, which had the recordings of the ADAJ material and a recording by me of sorry, I'm going to the wrong class here. And a recording by me of the HotDocs PDF template automation. So let me just take a moment again for our mutual sake to review our overall position in the course. So we are here in the 9:18 call. The goal for today is to review your listenings that you've done this past week, to have a couple of volunteers end their homework on the class 3 work, and then preview what's happening this coming week. And I will also check the question pane periodically and see nothing new and try to keep up with that. So, I know Liz Mering is indicated she may need to leave early. I'm not sure if she's already left. Liz, you were among the people that we're going to present, but I think you've stepped out. No, you're still here. So Liz, if you're willing, I'm going to unmute you. Are you able to talk and tell us, and can you show us anything?
Can you hear me?
We hear you.
I'm going to have to leave in just a few minutes, but
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had a court schedule something for me. I found this fairly straightforward as far as putting the fields into the PDF in the HotDocs Automator, so I didn't really have any questions. It seemed fairly straightforward and fairly useful.
Fair enough. In that case, let me move it on to Aldo. Aldo, did you have any issues, questions going through the PDF examples that we included in the homework? I'm going to unmute you.
No, it was pretty straightforward to me also. I guess one of the things I was curious about was when you do have a PDF and you're able to add their fields, is there a certain resolution that the PDF has to be for the automator to detect where a box is?
Yeah, there is. And let me bring it up myself here. And I think that kind of resolution is something you can set, but I'm not sure where. Maybe Bart may know if Bart's on the call. But if we open this, is that what your question is? So you've got when will HotDocs detect a checkbox as opposed to a regular field and differentiate between them?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yeah. So because I know that we were able to double click and HotDocs Automator was able to make the field box the exact size as one of our checkboxes in the PDF.
Right.
Yeah,
they should do that regardless. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, I was going to say it should do that regardless of resolution. It's the size of the box that determines it, and I'm not sure exactly what size is the cutoff, but the size and shape, I think, is the principal determiner. So I see that Mark just double-clicked there, and HotDocs didn't think that that was a checkbox, and I think that might be the shape of the box. If it's relatively square, I believe it will decide that it's a checkbox as opposed to something that's more, is more oblong. So the other thing is that in terms of resolution, I'm not sure that resolution is an issue, but sometimes by zooming in so that you zoom in on the form, sometimes that can change the HotDocs behavior. Sometimes it has trouble, or it's difficult to sort of click in a small space from when it's not zoomed in. And sometimes you can zoom in, and that's helpful in terms of having it automatically create the field.
And getting precision in the actual placement of the field on the form.
Yeah.
So that's a partial answer, Aldo. I don't know if it's a satisfying one. I vaguely recall there being some materials. If you go to options, there may well be some settings down here that control things like when something is detected as an edit field versus a checkbox field. Oh, here's detection threshold. There you go. So I haven't been here for a long time, but you might want to explore this stuff here. So if you've got a form that has larger than usual checkboxes, like the one we're working on here, had we set this threshold setting to something larger, HotDocs might well have properly interpreted these as checkboxes out of the box, rather than you having to change them. So there's a lot. This is an example of a lot of really subtle nuances inside of the settings when you get to doing PDF templates. Other things, Aldo, that hit you or questions that you were left with in doing the exercise?
No, actually it was pretty straightforward, and I did enjoy how quickly and easily you could automate this PDF.
Yeah, of course, we've only done some very simple things, and I think in the recording I showed some much more complex ones. But it's amazingly complete and satisfying for doing this style of automation if you have to deal with forms. Good. Let me give Ladidra a chance because you were the other volunteer, and to ask any questions, show us anything, or raise any issues. I'm going to unmute you.
Well, I'll just echo everyone else. This one went pretty smooth and was simple. The only thing that, because I've automated PDFs before, the only thing is I was like moving quickly and I forgot to push the group when I was adding the check boxes, and so it does something kind of weird. So I didn't realize what I did until when I went to run it. It didn't work correctly, and then I realized I'd skipped pushing group.
So you were working on this part.
Yeah. Yep. On the petition form.
Yeah. Right. This guy.
So you just have to make sure that you know. Sometimes when you think you know what you're doing quickly, you can, miss something that's you think maybe not be as important, but is super important.
Exactly. Yeah. And until you get a good kind of conceptual understanding, and even then, we still make those kind of mistakes. Okay, but otherwise, once you realized that and went back and grouped it, it behaved the way you expected.
Yep. And that was the only little, I guess, hiccup that I had. But I also realized, like, okay, this is what I need to go back and do. And I realized what I skipped.
Okay. Well, good. Let me ask anybody else on the mute Ladidra again for a second. Anybody else want to raise a question or comment about this exercise in the third module, the third week of material? If so, raise your hand or put a question or a comment in the question pane. And while I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to bring up the notes about what happens next. So the work going forward is going to be watch the recording for class 4, which Bart did. You'll find the link to the recording in the library. Let me get back to, I can see my screen. So if we go back to the folder for group call number 4. Sorry, group call number 5. Or here's lesson 4. This is confusing, I realize, even for us trainers. This is the recording of class 4, and this is the materials and homework for week 4, class 4, which looks like this. Unlike week 3, which was pretty easy, I think, as most of you have found, week 4 gets hard again. It's back to Hot Doc's word templates, and we go into much more detail into automating repeated information like children of the marriage. And Bart's video is, what, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, Bart. I think it's a substantially long video that goes through all of these steps in the homework, plus a few more to illustrate the concepts. And also involves creating a scripted interview that controls the flow of questions in the template. Do you want to say any more about week 4, Bart, and what people have to look forward to?
I think repeats are one of the most powerful features in Hot Docs, but they're also one of the more complicated ones to deal with and to learn how to use. So make sure you set up enough time aside to play around with it and experiment with it, and follow the video.
I did post an updated copy of this syllabus, which is evolving as Jessica, Bart, and I get our recordings all done. So there's the version on the Resource Center now is as of today. It's got all the links through the first 4 weeks. I haven't gone through and put specific time markings into week 4, but pretty much everything in the syllabus and more is covered in Bart's recording. And your detailed instructions for your homework are included in this document called Materials and Homework for week 4. So I guess the last thing I need to do, unless there's questions, is to see if I can elicit 2 volunteers for next week to report back about your experience and show your screen if you're so inclined. Anybody out there willing to raise your hand and volunteer to be one of our presenters next week in the same informal call? I did very much. Andino, excellent. Anyone else willing to stand up and step forward? It's not hard, as you see, not very painful. Go ahead.
Looks like Diana Ronk has a. Oh, she has a question.
I see Diana has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question, comment from earlier, Diana.
Yeah.
We certainly welcome your volunteering if you're willing. Don't want to put people on the spot, but it's always good to have 2 in case somebody's unavailable or has a different experience. Let's see here. Diana's behind. Okay, understood. Aaron's not going to be able to attend. Gotcha. And you already did this once, I think, Aaron, so you're kind of off the hook. While anyone's deliberating about volunteering, we still would like somebody. But do you have any questions, comments? Are you finding this experience working for you? I know Claudia is going to do a survey again after this call just to try to elicit your feedback, because we're really trying to design these things to be effective and a positive experience. But I know also people are very busy, and trying to fit this into your regular life can be tricky.
Okay. Well,
I'm not hearing anybody. Good, Claudia.
I put the link of the survey there. It's gonna come to you via the GoToWebinar software too. So we do wanna, if we need to cover something again or adjust as we go along, let us know. Next week, I also put on the chat box that next week on Tuesday we're doing a monthly call. LHI does monthly calls, and this one is gonna be technical, and we're going to be focusing on some modular ways to work with hot dogs. So any of you who want to see those type of capacities with the software and build skills on that, you're very much welcome to come. That's also going to be recorded. I will aim to get this YouTube up hopefully no later than end of Thursday in the YouTube channel, so that if you want to review it, you can.
Let me show one last thing before we break, which I meant to do earlier. As those of you who were here last week recall, when Paige was showing work, she raised a question which I didn't have a good answer for, which was when you have a component manager open, like this is for the Montana divorce template, and you want to do a search and replace, you can search for things like the word city, and you'll find, if you search all components in the component file, in this particular one, a combination of variables where that word appears in the prompt, and dialogues where that word appears in one of the variables in the dialogue. Like here, this is the children dialogue. It's got all these child city, for instance. That's the only place the word city appears. It's not in the text of anything. And so the unexpected experience was that, let me cancel this, was that you get 5 hits when you do a search, but when you do a search and replace, find and replace, in components, and you look here, you get prompted with just the three that happen to be the variables. So we're actually looking at the prompt for these three variables. I'm not going to do anything, but if I go through them, I'm only taken to the variables. I'm not taken to the dialogues because HotDocs doesn't change variable names. And I explained Paige's experience and my confusion, and maybe I've made you more confused. But just be aware that when you search, you're searching everything, including references to variables. But when you replace, you can only replace stuff in text, in the text like prompts and screen text. If you want to change the name of a variable, you use a different button called rename components, and that's a different experience. That's kind of sacrosanct. You don't want to do that except very carefully. Paige, I don't know if that explains it for you. I'm going to unmute you in case you're available to say anything. But
it did
that clarify it for
me,
you? And do you want to?
It did explain it for me. I think I've got a little bit of a delay going, but it did explain it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's a delay for all of us on these calls. I apologize. Something about GoToMeeting. Okay, I think we're done for today. I'm going to take one last look to see if there's any questions or volunteers. You can always volunteer after the call if you're so inclined. But in any event, go forth, do your materials, homework for week 4, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday. We'll stop short of the hour because there's the community call right afterwards next Tuesday, and you're all welcome to join that, as Claudia has mentioned. So please fill out the survey. Anything last minute from anybody? Let me see it. Yeah, I think David is reporting that some confusion about today being class 4. There's definitely still some confusion. We tried to clarify in the syllabus, etc., what's where. So if you're ahead of us, that's great, and you can take some time off. Otherwise, you got work to do. Bart, did you want to say anything?
Nope, all set.
Okay, I'm done. Claudia, should we just wrap it up? I think we're good, guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. Stay out of the rain, and we'll see you next Tuesday.